There is a very important strategy, and this has been going on for decades, generations, and centuries, going back into the roots of the banking establishments themselves. Today I'm talking about how this disparity has been created between the rich and the poor, how ultimately the rich are controlling the governments, and how they want you under their control. So let's take a look at some articles right now. Study Wealth Inequality Inflamed by Slow Recovery. And what they said was that right now they have a major separation, a great divide in between the rich and the poor. And this is something I've talked about many times, and I said that the middle class will be wiped out. It will be non-existent. This is the case in many third world countries. You look around and you find really wealthy people and really poor people. And it is very, very clear. And that is happening in the United States and other Western countries. You can't ignore that anymore. Here are the studies right here, 24 times as much wealth. And that is a serious, serious case. Now, speaking of the wealthy, you don't have that problem if you're Warren Buffett, because he said the stock market isn't rigged. Of course, he is just a nice old man eating his ice cream and drinking his Coca-Cola, but here he is saying the stock market isn't rigged, even though he gets the sweetheart deals, even though he's able to basically get his company's bailouts, multi-billion dollar bailouts from the taxpayer. At the same time, they say they have to raise the taxes on the rich. And of course, he's not talking about himself, because he's exempt. He's talking about the so-called wealthy, which are basically the upper middle class, and they are the real employers of many people, and they want them destroyed so that they have this super wealthy class and then everyone else be poor. This is the big news right here. I want to bring it to you guys. Bullard predicts Fed funds rate increase in the first quarter of 2015. So they're saying that they're going to taper all the way down by the end of this year, and that'll be done with. And then the first quarter of 2015, they're going to start raising interest rates. Why? Because everything is fine. There's nothing wrong with the economy. Everything is doing just fine. You know, unemployment is down significantly, and we have a booming stock market. And let's ignore the real jobs numbers, and let's just ignore the real inflation numbers. But anyway, let's just take a look at the stock market and know that everything is okay. So that is the Fed funds rate. Let's take a look at it right now. Historically, it's been going on here for many years at zero. You can see how they were climbing up as things started to heat up. They started to increase that interest rate, and they did so relatively slowly, and it didn't do too much, because by the time they got it up to a respectable level, they had to significantly drop it all the way down to a historic 0%. And let's take a look at what I wrote about in my book. That basically, I'm not going to read you this whole thing, but it basically said that rising interest rates will mean slower growth in the economy, less people borrowing money and spending. And basically, Ben Bernanke said loss of investor confidence could potentially raise interest rates quite significantly. So will they allow the interest rates to rise? That's a big question. We'll have to see it for ourselves. Regardless, real interest rates are actually negative at this point because of inflation. But let's just go with their numbers just to prove a point. I'm going to scroll down very quickly just to show you one little chart here. This is now the numbers are a bit outdated, but here you go all the way to 2011. You can see the 30-year mortgage rate declining in practically a straight line. And why is the housing market being fueled? Because of these low interest rates. Why are people able to spend to that maximum? Because interest rates are low. They're very low, historically low right now. And that's allowed this boom, this whole rise to happen. If you had interest rates that were historically average, then you'd have a lot less individuals able to afford these homes, able to afford these cars, and everything else that they're financing. That's the real scenario. But here is another thing, and that is ECB imposes negative interest rate. And this is going to become pervasive throughout other countries around the world. And this is just how it begins. They start with one bail-in, and then they start to bail in the other countries. They do a bailout, and then the other countries follow. You have negative interest rates, ECB imposing them. You're going to have that all around the world, because ultimately they need to make sure that you are poor. They want more people on food stamps. They want more people on the government handouts so that they can control everything, and they're doing such a great job at it. I have to applaud their efforts here because they're going ahead and it is just taking place and people are just allowing it to happen. They think as long as I get my Obama phone, why do I need to care about anything else? But the fact remains is that this is very serious and the public just is not aware of what the real situation is. That when you have the negative interest rates, you have the bail-ins, the bailouts, you have a stock market that is completely and entirely manipulated, you have taxes being raised on the middle class, you have a middle class that's evaporating. These are huge problems because the elite will take over and you have a fascist society developed and they will dominate us forevermore when they write it into the law that there will be two separate classes of people and you will not be among the elite. I assure you that. If you want more deep intel, you need to be an insider. The insiders is at themoneygps.com at the bottom. You fill in your email address, and that is totally free. I give out tons of information there that is an extension of the work I've done in my book. I want to say hello to all the new subscribers. And please join me as we continue on this path to learn more, to give each other the knowledge that we've learned, and really share everything we can.